So hello everybody out there in the YouTube world, the audience. Uh Happy Juma to all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there. So today I'm gonna be dealing with the topic about Roy Innis. All right. So who was Roy Innis? So everybody is going into this uproar right now in the YouTube world about you know multiple subjects. So there's some things I'm going to address later on. I'm going to give my input on later. But anyways, um, yeah, I want to go ahead and talk about the civil rights activists and put my focus on the black psychologists and psychiatrists. All right, who um, who pretty much was unsung, never really got that much recognition, never been recognized for the work they have done in the community and overall in general. So I want to talk about Roy Innis. And before I get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, share my channel, all that great stuff. All right. Um, so let's go ahead and get into it. So who was Roy Innis? Now, I have information according to Wikipedia. As you can see, that was a video I was watching. They were talking about privatizing the welfare state. And this was back in 1995, which he participated in. So, yeah. All right. Now, many people know that Roy Innis was known for slapping the shit out of Al Sharpton on Morton Downey Jr. show. So he slapped the shit out of the man, and the man got knocked out the chair. Then he went on Gerardo Rivera show. If you guys remember Gerardo Rivera, he got on there and he beat the hell out of Wood. He choked the shit out of the white supremacist, called him an Uncle Tom. Now that part was funny as shit. I ain't even gonna cap. He got up and got down, choked the shit out of that damn white supremacist. Like, who the fuck you calling Uncle Tom? So yeah, and I don't blame him. But yeah, so I want to talk about Roy Innis and the work that he's done in the community and whatnot. So a lot of people don't know that he was a civil rights activist and he was part of the organization called CORE. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right. Now, his name was Roy Emil Alfredo Innis. He was born June the 6th, 1934, and he died January the 8th, 2017. He was an American activist and politician and was the chairman of the Congress of Racial Equality from 1968 to until his death. One of his sons, Niger Roy Innis, served as a national spokesman of the Congress of Racial Equality. All right, so his life. So he was born in St. Croix, Virgin Island in 1934. In 1947, he moved with his mother from the Virgin Islands to New York City, where he graduated from Sebastian High School in 1952. At the age of 16, Ennis joined the U.S. Army, and at the age of 18, he received an honorable discharge. He entered a 4-year program in chemistry at the City College of New York. He subsequently held a position as a research chemist at Big Chemical Company and was a Montefiore Hospital. All right, so his early years as a civil rights activist, he joined the Core Harlem chapter in 1963, and in 1964 he was elected chairman of the chapter's education committees and advocated community control education and black empowerment. In 1965, he was elected chairman of Harlem Core after he was campaigning for the establishment of an independent board of education for Harlem. So in 1967, Ennis was appointed the first resident fellow at the Metropolitan Applied Research Center, headed by Dr. Kenneth Clark. In the summer of 1967, he was elected second national vice chairman of CORE. All right, so let's talk about his leadership. So he was selected as a national chairman in 1968, a contentious convention meeting. So Ennis initially headed the organization in a strong campaign of black nationalism. White core activists, according to James Peck, were removed from court in 1965 as part of a purge of whites from the movement, then under the control of Ennis. Under Ennis' leadership, CORE supported the presidential candidacy of Richard Nixon in 1972. This was the beginning of a sharp rightward turn in the organization. So as you can see, that's a picture here right there in the middle. Okay. All right. So and that's his wife. All right, then. So Ennis Core drafted the Community Self Determination Act of 1968 and garnered bipartisan sponsorship of this bill by one-third of the U.S. Senate and over 50 congressmen. This was the first time in U.S. history that CORE or any civil rights organization drafted a bill and introduced it into the U.S. Congress. So in the debate over school integration, Ennis offered an alternative plan consisting of community control of educational institution. As part of this effort, in October 1970, CORE filed an amicus curiae brief with the U.S. Supreme Court in connection with Swan versus Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education in 1971. Ennis and a CORE delegation toured 7 African countries in 1971. He met with several heads of state, including Kenya's Jomo Kenyatta, Tanzania Julius Nyerere, Liberia's William Tolbert, and Uganda Idi Amin, who was awarded a life membership of CORE. Ennis met with Amin and the aforementioned African statesmen as part of his CORE campaign drive for finding jobs in Africa for Black Americans. In 1973, he became the first American to attend the Organization of American African Unity in an official capacity. Right? In an official, yeah, in 1973, Ennis was scheduled to participate in a televised debate with Nobel winning physicist William Shockley on the topic of Black intelligence. According to sources, Ennis pulled out of the debate at the last moment because the student society at Princeton University organized the event refused to allow the press and the public into the event. The debate went forward with Dr. Ashley Otagu replacing Ennis. All right. So it talked about criminal justice and National Rifle Association. So Ennis was a long active in criminal justice matter, including the debate over gun control and the Second Amendment. After losing 2 sons to criminals with guns, he became an advocate for the rights of law-abiding citizens to self-defense. A life member of the National Rifle Association, he also served on its governing board. Ennis also chaired the NRA's Urban Affairs Committee and was a member of the NRA Ethics Committee, and continued to speak publicly in the U.S. and around the world in favor of individual civilian ownership of firearms, gun issues, and individual rights. Ennis lost 2 of his sons to criminal gun violence. His eldest son, Roy Innis Jr., was killed at the age of 13 in 1968. His oldest son, Alexander Twin Sister, was shot and slain in 1982. And Ennis told Newsday in 1993, "My sons were not killed by the Ku Klux Klan or David Duke. They were murdered by young black thugs. I used the murder of my sons by black hoodlums to shift the problems from excuses like the KKK to dope pushing on the streets. All right. So it talked about the controversy. So Ennis was noted for two on-air fights in the middle of a TV talk show in 1988. The first in the midst of an argument about the Tawana Brawley case during a taping of the Morton Downey Jr. show. Ennis shoved Al Sharpton to the floor. Also that year, Ennis was in scuffle on Geraldo with white supremacist John McIntyre. The skirmish started after McIntyre's son of white Iranian resistance founder Tom McIntyre, or however the fuck you say his name, called Ennis and Uncle Tom. Ennis grabbed the seat McIntyre's throat, appearing to choke him. The incident started a brawl in the studio, resulting in Rivera's nose getting broken. Ennis raised American volunteers to fight for Utah, an Angolan rebel army fighting the communist government. Utah was also supported by Uganda and apartheid-era South America. Prosperity USA, a nonprofit run by aides of presidential candidate Herman Cain, attracted controversy after it gave $100,000 donation to court shortly before Kane's speech at a court event. All right. And so it goes on to say his political campaigns. So in 1986, Ennis challenged incompetent Major Owens in the Democratic primary for the 12th congressional district representing Brooklyn. He was defeated by a 3-1 margin. In the 1993 New York City Democratic mayor primary, Ennis challenged incompetent David Dinkins, the first African American to hold the office. Given his conservative position on the issues, he explained that the Democratic Party is the only game in town. It's unfortunate that we have a corrupt one party, one ideology system in New York, and I'd like to change that. But being a Democrat doesn't mean you have to be a fool. During his own campaign, Ennis also appeared at fundraising events for the Republican candidate Rudolph Giuliani. Ennis received 25% of the vote in the four-way race, with a majority of his votes coming from multi-ethnic areas. While he while he fell in less culturally diverse assembly districts, Ennis lost to Dickens, who then lost to Giuliani in the general election. So in February 1994, his son Niger, who ran his primary campaign, suggested that Ennis would also challenge incumbent governor Mario Cuomo in the Democratic primary. In 1998, Ennis joined the Libertarian Party and gave serious consideration to running for the governor of New York as the party's candidate that year. He ultimately decided against running, citing time restriction related to his duties before. So Ennis served as New York State Chair in Alan Keyes' 2000 presidential campaign. So he had died at the age of 82 from Parkinson's disease. All right. So many of y'all may feel some kind of way about his position. Okay. So he stood on his position as far as part of core. That's how he started off, which is Congress on racial equality. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's go and find out what core is. All right. So for those of us who may not know anything about core. All right. So let's go into a little bit about core history. So, the Congress of Racial Equality is an African American civil rights organization in the United States that played a pivotal role for African Americans in the civil rights movement. It was founded in 1942. It states mission to bring about equality for all people, regardless of race, sex, age, disability, sexual orientation, religion, or ethnic background. Okay, so it was founded in Chicago, Illinois, in March of 1942. The organization founding members included James Leonard Farmer Jr., Anna Pauline Murray, George Milhauser, okay, uh, Alice Fishner, Fisher and Homer A. Jack. Of the 50 original founding members, 28 were men and 22 were women. Roughly one third of them were black and the other two thirds white. Baynard Weston, while not a founding member of the organization, was, as Foreman and Hauser later noted, an uncle to CORE and provided with significant support. So the group had evolved out of the pacifist fellowship of reconciliation and sought to apply the principle of nonviolence as a tactic against racial segregation. Right. So the group was inspired by Indian national leader Mahatma Gandhi, support for nonviolent resistance. Indian writer and journalist Krishnali Shandarani, who was known as a vibrant and the radical public speaker, had been a protege of Gandhi, being jailed with him in the Salt March, and whose 1939 book, War Without Violence, heavily influenced the organization. During the period in which CORE was founded, Gandhi's leadership of the independence movement in India against British colonial rule was reaching its apogee. CORE sought to apply the non-violent anti-colonial tactics pioneered by Gandhi and his followers to successfully change racial segregation and racism in the United States through civil rights disobedience. All right, so CORE was found in 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, and most of the people that was the founder were African Americans, and other were white. So y'all might compare CORE to the NAACP. Okay, so their whole purpose was to fight against racial injustice. All right. So with that being said, Roy Innis was a black nationalist. He stood on the principle of black nationalism. Okay, right. That's what he stood on. So he was in the Democratic Party. Then he became part of the Republican Party. Then he became a libertarian. All right. So a libertarian is like an independent party. It's not very popular. All right. It's not very popular. Their views are, how can I say? Their views are a little bit more. Their views are a little bit more radical than the Democrats. Like they give a lot of harsh criticism to like the Democratic parties and the Republican Party. All right. So that's when he joined the Libertarian Party later on in life. And they don't get that much representation. They don't get that much vote because the main two parties is either Democratic or Republican. So all the rest of the parties, like the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, and whatever other independent parties out there, they don't gain that much recognition. Okay. Um. So Roy Innis, throughout his life, was an active CORE member. He was a civil rights activist, and he was a fighter. That man did not mind beating some asses if he had to. Okay. So, but he became unsung and not getting the proper credit. So there might be some views that many people may disagree on with regard to where his stance, especially the fact that he campaigned for Richard Nixon and Giuliani and all of them. A lot of people may not agree with what he did on that level, but at the same time, he was I think in his case it wasn't about the people themselves, it's about their position. So he was looking for somebody who supported where his position was at. And so what we have to realize that there has always been black conservatives and black Republicans. As a matter of fact, before blacks could even get into join the Democratic Party, a lot of black folk joined the Republican Party, all right, after slavery. Because that was the only party that really accepted a lot of black people. And they joined those parties with the idea of abolishing slavery. And also, being able to give blacks opportunity to run into office. All right, it was the Democrat Party. If you really know the history, if you want to get technical, that was bringing about a lot of racial tensions. You had the Ku Klux Klan; they were Democrats. Andrew Andrew Jackson was a Democrat, and he wasn't trying to abolish slavery. As a matter of fact, when the slaves escaped from the southern region and went through Florida and all the other places, he was the one that commanded to get the slaves back into the states. And like I said, Ku Klux Klan known to burn down churches, burn down crosses and whatnot. They didn't really want blacks in the party like that. So if black people really knew the origin and history behind these political parties, especially Democratic parties, I think that we'll have a better mindset, and I think that we'll reconsider trying to vote for just Democrat only. Now, where I stand is I'm not for either party because the Republican Party is just as bad too. You know what I'm saying? Now you got these new black conservatives around; they're just as bad. However, what I look at is what is the political agendas, and that's the problem. Is black folks we ain't been taught how to go based on political agendas or look at what policies benefit us as a community. But then at the same time, there's black folks that don't want to vote for neither one because they feel like nothing's going to change. They've been lied to, they've been robbed all their life. So it's like, why? What's the purpose of us voting if nothing's going to change? But that's it. That's all I have for Roy Innis. And I'll come back with you guys later to talk about more, having open discussions about other various topics out there, controversial topics. Um, people done passed away, and it's like a big uproar going on social media platforms. So I'll come back and give my views on those particular topics. So just stay tuned. But till then, y'all be safe, be careful out there. Peace and power elevation. This is your Tiffany. And I appreciate the support from every last one of y'all. So continue to support my channel like y'all been doing. Make sure you subscribe, the notification bell. So if you guys tune in or if you ever come and watch this video, you have to watch it from the very beginning. All right. So y'all take it easy. Peace.